Welcome back to our special CNN Spotlight on the growing mystery surrounding Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl. As Americans debate the circumstances of the prisoner swap that brought him freedom in exchange for 5 Taliban fighters, a critical question remains. How did Bergdahl disappear in the first place? Was he looking for the Taliban, kidnapped while on patrol? Is he a good soldier, or is he a deserter? Was he on a misguided mission of peace, or was he after something more sinister? Or was he searching for something else entirely? For Bowe Bergdahl, the lure of the unknown was powerful. As a child, he had wondered about what lay beyond the mountains of his idyllic hometown of Haley, Idaho. As a soldier, his wanderlust did not go unnoticed. An internal investigation by the Army, conducted in the months following his disappearance in June 2009, found that Private Bergdahl had wandered off at least twice before. The first time was before he even left for Afghanistan during basic training, here at the Army's National Training Center at Fort Irwin, California. According to the New York Times, Bergdahl's fellow soldiers told investigators that he had slipped away to go watch the sunset. The natural world apparently beckoned again in Afghanistan, where Private Bergdahl ventured away for a walk outside the wired perimeter of his outpost, an unauthorized trek that was never reported up the chain of command. Some of his fellow soldiers say he seemed driven less by duty and more by a desire to explore.
I think he just wanted to go on an adventure without having anybody to answer to, without having anything to worry about. He wanted to be able to go out and see Afghanistan for himself without, the Army stopping him.
A friend from Bergdahl's pre-Army life in Idaho says he often sought time alone in the mountains.
When he was here, it wasn't unusual for him to take off and go on a hike and find a pretty vista and sit down in the lotus position and meditate and recenter himself and reevaluate what was going on around him.
Sherry Horton was Bergdahl's roommate for several years.
He was always trying to expand his knowledge. He really wanted to learn about new and different things, like ballet.
That's right, ballet. Before he was a soldier, Bergdahl was a dancer, and quite a good one by all accounts. Horton, who was the creative director of the dance studio where Bergdahl studied, said he brought his signature intensity to the dance floor as well.
He was a really serious student. He started late, so he was really about catching up and getting as much knowledge. So he would take 2 or 3 classes, even if it was with the younger children. He was really interested in learning as much as he could.
It's a characterization you hear over and over again when talking to friends of Bergdahl in Idaho's Sun Valley, where yellow ribbons are everywhere, some faded from 5 long years in the sun. The rest of the country may be divided over Bergdahl's release, but here there is palpable relief.
He'll get a great welcome, I'm pretty sure of it.
Walt Femling is a local police chief and friend of the Bergdahl family. He says Bergdahl was a seeker.
Bowe was a 20-year-old who lived in a remote area of our county. He was homeschooled, so he really didn't have a lot of life experience, and he was adventurous. He really was looking for adventure, and he talked to me about going to Alaska. I encouraged him to go and, seek out those adventures.
And Bergdahl did seek them out, touring Europe and venturing to Alaska to work on a fishing boat. Dylan Fulmer hauled salmon alongside him.
When we weren't on the boat up there, we just go off walking through the little swamplands, and we just go off on little adventures for half days and come back, and I just had good little talks.
Between his travels, Bergdahl would come back to Haley. He did a seasonal stint working the range at the local gun club before moving on to Zany's coffee shop, where messages from well-wishers now cover the walls. But soon he was off on his next adventure, joining the Army's fight in Afghanistan. By May 2009, Bergdahl and the rest of Blackfoot Company were in rural Paktika province, where they manned a small outpost known as Mest Malak.
Pretty much as soon as we had gone to Afghanistan and things started to turn a little bit harder for all of us, he immediately started separating himself away from us, and everyone in the platoon has started gravitating more towards the Afghan soldiers.
Personally, I just thought he took an interest in their culture, and I didn't see any problem with it.
One of Bergdahl's closest friends in the Army was former specialist Gerald Sutton.
Every day, We would always eat together, and we would always go outside, and he would smoke his pipe, and sometimes I would smoke with him too. And we would just relax after work or after we're done with maintenance with trucks. But he wasn't a loner.
Sutton says Bergdahl was a good soldier, and they often talked about what they wanted to do with their lives after the Army. Bergdahl presented a strange plan.
3 days before he actually left, he asked me what it would be like to get lost in the mountains, or do you think he could make it to India or China or something on foot? And I just brushed it off as kind of a joke.
At the same time, letters Bergdahl wrote to his parents, obtained by Rolling Stone magazine but not independently verified by CNN, described mounting frustration with the mission and his superiors.
He did talk about how he did not agree with the war effort in Afghanistan, or the U.S. Army's, the way we were handling our war effort in Afghanistan.
Former Sergeant Evan Buetow was Bergdahl's team leader. The private, he says, came to him one day with a curious question.
He did come to me at one point and ask me, he said, what would happen if my sensitive items go missing?
Sensitive items like Bergdahl's gun.
It's obviously an incredibly huge ordeal, and there's a lot of backlash, and it's very important that we find those items. It was a little odd that he would ask me that question.
Soon after, Buetow found Bergdahl's weapon and his other sensitive items like his night vision goggles. But the young soldier, the man himself, was gone. The final clues to where Bo Bergdahl went when we come back.